Okay guys, it's almost holiday time, but both Bitcoin and Ethereum are looking extremely interesting for potential long ideas. While everyone is scared to buy, I'm actually looking to long both Bitcoin and Ethereum. So let's dive into the charts and let's see what trading ideas I'm looking to be trading this week. While everyone is freaking out about Bitcoin right now, guys, I do think that Bitcoin is ready for a range. When we look at the range over here for Bitcoin, I do think that this will be the range for Bitcoin over the course of the upcoming weeks. And when we look at the range, guys, we know that we can trade the range until it breaks. We can see that the range has been getting respected as support and resistance several times for the price of Bitcoin already. Over here at the range low, but also over here at the range high. We can see that the price action has definitely been respecting the range high and the range low. Now we know that we can trade this range until it breaks. But how will we be trading this range? What I do think is very likely is that first off, we could see that we had a massive wick over here for the price of Bitcoin. When we take the 50% wick fill level of that major wick on the 4-hourly time frame, and we quickly remove the range levels, we can see that the previous time we front run that 50% wick fill level. Now we know that these wicks, they tend to get filled for 50%. So Bitcoin saw a push to the upside over here. By getting that push to the upside, price broke through this high over here, getting a fake break of structure. What was this fake break of structure doing, guys? It was engineering liquidity beneath the lows over here. How so? Because of this push to the upside that was initiated after putting in this low over here. We got that fake break of structure, but retail thinks that it's a valid break of structure. So what is retail doing? They are breakout longing the price of Bitcoin, thinking that new all-time highs are coming. Or they mark out this break of structure over here, and because of the break of structure, they pull back long the price of Bitcoin. Now both the breakout longs and the pullback longs, they are looking for an invalidation for their long trade. They can either pick the low over here, or they can pick the low of the wick over here. Now most people would have been using the low over here. How so? Because people are greedy creatures. Let's say they open up a breakout long position over here and they target $130,000 for Bitcoin, right? If they would use the lowest low to cover their stop loss, they would only get an RR of 2.3. If they instead would use the low over here to cover their stop loss, the RR would increase all the way towards 3.37. It's a much higher RR. People are very greedy creatures, so they place their stop loss indeed beneath the low over here, which means that besides the fact that beneath the low over here we hit that 50% wick fill level, we also had liquidity resting over here due to this push to the upside and this fake break of structure over here. So that means that by getting that push to the downside last week, we were mitigating a very important liquidity pool because of the low over here, but also because of the fact that we had that 50% wick fill level over here. So that means that we are currently not only tagging into the range low, but also taking into that 50% wick fill level and into a very important liquidity level on itself. Which means, guys, we are basically looking at a high probability area for a potential reversal back towards the upside, back towards the range high for Bitcoin. Now, what I do think is quite likely is that Bitcoin and Ethereum are going to form some kind of a SMT divergence over here before getting a reversal back towards the upside. What do I mean by that? I mean that an SMT divergence is either Bitcoin forming a higher low over here, and at the same time Ethereum is going to form a lower low over here, or the other way around, in which Bitcoin is going to form a lower low over here, and at the same time Ethereum is going to form a higher low over here. Now I do think that this is going to be a likely scenario in which we are going to see an SMT divergence, either with Bitcoin forming a lower low and Ethereum forming a higher low, or the other way around, before getting a reversal back towards the upside. Now, we can't really anticipate that SMT. What we can do is kind of anticipate the SMT, but then wait for a second confirmation. So we wait for Bitcoin to take out the low and Ethereum to form a higher low at the same time. Then we wait for price action to reclaim the range low level that I marked out in confluence with a market structure break over here, and that is our long trigger for Bitcoin to long Bitcoin over here upon that reclaim and break of structure with the invalidation over here, targeting new all-time highs, or at least targeting the range high for the price of Bitcoin. Now the second way that you can do this is indeed anticipate that SMT divergence. So both for Bitcoin and Ethereum, you anticipate either one of them to take out the low. That's where you'll be looking to long with your invalidation, for example, beneath the low over here or beneath one of the lows that we have over here. And then, once again, same idea, you target the range high as your take profit target. Now, this is a scenario as well, but you do have to recognize the fact that this is a much more risky scenario, but I might be willing to risk a little bit on a scenario like this. How so? Because guys, we are also entering the holidays, and during the holidays we know that we are trading in a low liquid environment, which means that it's very likely for both Bitcoin and Ethereum over the course of the holidays and New Year's Eve going into the new year to keep on chopping around until we start the new year. Just as for Bitcoin, also Ethereum has ended a high probability POI for a potential reversal. First off, on a daily, we can see that Ethereum is retesting the very pivotal 100 EMA on a daily time frame. Second of all, we can also see that Ethereum took out some major liquidity beneath the low over here. While taking out that major liquidity on a daily time frame, Ethereum is also tagging into this daily fair value gap right over here. Now, after tagging into the POI with a daily candle over here on Friday, Ethereum saw a big bounce. But by getting the big bounce, once again, we put in a major wick to the downside. Now we know that these wicks, they tend to get filled for 50%. How do I know this? Guys, if you guys don't know yet about the wick filling strategy, I will leave a link to that wick fill strategy video down below in the description. So after watching today's video, definitely make sure to check out that video on the wick fill strategy as well to educate you guys even further. So we know that these wicks, they tend to get filled for 50%. If we mark out the 50% wick fill level over here, we can see that the wick has now been filled for 50%. That means that we can move to the lower time frame, to the intraday time frame, to start looking at potential triggers to look for potential longs. Now, what I see when I look at this price action over here is that, in my opinion, we are looking at a bit of a low probability break of structure over here. What do I mean by that? I mean that, yes, we are breaking through a significant high over here. But by just breaking through that high, guys, it's not enough to call it a high probability break of structure. It's a break of structure, it's a valid break of structure, but it's not a high probability break of structure. How so? Because in order to get a high probability break of structure, we want a high probability liquidity sweep before the break of structure takes place. Now, we form a lower high and then we form a lower low. But by just forming a lower high over here and then taking out the low over here, this is not necessarily a high probability liquidity sweep. But when we move to the left-hand side over here, we can see that by getting this push to the downside, we did sweep major high time frame liquidity over here. So that means that we might actually be looking at a high probability break of structure, which means that you might find yourself an invalidation over here. Now, I'm not willing to long over here yet with my invalidation over here, targeting higher levels for Ethereum. What I'm willing to do though is that I do think that this is an interesting area for Ethereum to get some kind of a reversal towards the upside, and when we get the confirmations, I'm willing to hop into a long. So what kind of confirmation am I looking at? There's two ways to play this. The first thing that I find quite interesting about Ethereum is this high over here. Now, if we can open and close candles above this very significant high, we find ourselves an invalidation beneath the low over here, and I'm willing to play the higher low. So in that case, that scenario would look something like this. Push above that high, play the higher low, target higher levels. In that case, I would be willing to play the higher low there with my invalidation over here, targeting higher levels for the price of Ethereum. This is long scenario number one that offers a major RR of approximately 5. The second intraday time frame scenario that I'm willing to trade is if Ethereum takes out the low over here. Now, if we take out the low over here, the high that brings us to that low, aka the high over here, becomes a very significant high to break. If afterwards we break through that high over here, then once again, I'm willing to play the higher low over here with my invalidation over here, and once again targeting new yearly highs for Ethereum, and that would offer us a major RR once again of 4.26. So for Bitcoin, guys, I want to await more kind of confirmations with the reclaim of the range low in confluence with the break of structure in order to hop into long positions. For Ethereum, the price action is looking more interesting if you were to ask me. Await the confirmations, enjoy your Christmas, and when you get the confirmations, make sure to enter high probability long trade and enjoy the profits. Ciao, ciao!